Hello and welcome to a festive special of the Racing Post Postcast, proudly sponsored by Unibet. Welcome to your Christmas escapism. We're forgetting about all things present, all things Santa Claus, and looking at some absolutely top-class racing over Boxing Day and Friday's racing at Chepstow and Kempton, of course. But it's Kempton on Boxing Day where we start. It's the King George, one of 4 live ITV races there, as well as an absolute cracker between Lossiemouth and Constitution Hill in the Christmas hurdle. We'll see what the panel fancy there. We'll also look at Aintree, which joins in the Boxing Day bonanza, where it's got the Grade 1 Formby hurdle, Cheltenham Hopeful, Potter's Charm leading the betting there. And, of course, on Boxing Day, we've also got the Rowland Meyrick live on ITV at Wetherby. We'll move on to Friday, where we've got the Welsh Grand National to look forward to, that top-class card at Kempton to look forward to as well. Just loads to get through. No better panel to help me out than Jonny Pearson, fresh from his winning nap on Thursday. The show went out on Saturday. Well done with Jungle Boogie. Tom Park returns, and of course, Unibet's Ed Nicholson. Guys, let's get stuck into it. An absolute brilliant card of racing we've got to get through. And let's start in the 12:45, the first race to look for on a hugely busy Boxing Day. I'm sure Tom Park and all the Racing Post team as well on that editorial side will have a work out with so many races to get through. Our first race, though, is the 12:45, the Ladbrokes Best Odds Guarantees on Racing Novices Limited Handicap Chase, a race which is usually a good pointer towards the rest of the season, and this year especially, given we know that the handicap at the Cheltenham Festival, Novice Handicap Chases, could be a good pointer for that. At the top of the market, we've got Asta La Pasta at 3-1, Range at 4-1, El Rio at 5s, Es Perfecto 11-2, Firefly at 7-1, and Leader in the Park for Ben Pauling. Of course, took out the big race at Ascot on Saturday at 8-1. A brilliant race to start off. Jonny Pearson, fresh from your big winner on Saturday, what do you like in the first?
I can see the case for Asta La Pasta at the head of the market in good form behind Caliph de Burle, but the one that really has caught my eye here is Fireflyer for Paul Nicholls and Harry Cobden. At Exeter last time, I really fancied Billy the Real Big Red, who won pretty well. It's a really nice improving chaser. And Fireflyer ran really solid race to finish second behind him. And I think that's a very good piece of form. I'd expect him to come on again for that. And I think he could have a little bit more in hand than Asta La Pasta and Range, for all they're all sort of winning races or running well and improving. So it has to be Fireflyer for me here.
Yeah, a little bit of boost for you here, Jonny. Paul Nicholls did his Christmas stable tour. You can read that all on the Racing Post website. And this was one that was put forward by Paul, and said this race would be absolutely ideal for him. So a little bit of boost from the main man himself. Tom, are you with Fireflyer or looking elsewhere?
Yeah, it did catch my eye, actually, when you just mentioned that stable tour. Nicholls talking about Firefly. I thought the bookies had this market just about right. I'm going to side with Asta La Pasta. Just really like the way that he's kind of taken to chasing this season. Didn't think he lost an awful lot in defeat. He was obviously staying on quite powerfully at the end of that race against Caliph de Burle. I think the step up in trip here will definitely be in his favour. And I'd just like to think that there's a good bit more in hand off a mark of 130. Skeltons have been in good form all season, so there's nothing there to suggest. And I think this looks a decent opportunity, albeit it's a relatively competitive race. Long old day punting, so I certainly won't be burning my powder in this. But Asta La Pasta is the one that I'm going to side with.
A winning start for favourites, says Tom Park. And finally, Ed, you've got a little Christmas treat for us in this race.
Yeah, we're going money back second or third as cash in the opening race on ITV on Boxing Day. Happy Christmas. And it's an interesting race, difficult race though, isn't it? Plenty of horses here with a chance. Firefly's been my nap on this podcast on about 2 or 3 occasions and always let me down. So he'll probably win this time, but I'm going to oppose him with a horse who's actually quite a big price, I think. Nicky Henderson's got 8 runners on Boxing Day, 7 of which are at Kempton, and we all know the number 1 will be. But First Street might be a surprise package for the Henderson followers in the opening contest. He got beat at 1-7 on his chasing debut at Kempton, but then he ran 2 lacklustre races over fences. They went back to hurdling, and he finished 4th on his seasonal debut at Kempton again over hurdles. But if you look at his handicap mark, it's 130. He's been running, in races he's 150, 140 over hurdles. He's betwixt and between being a very good hurdler and being a hurdler that could win on a handicap mark. But his handicap mark has come down, and now he goes back to chasing. He's had a wind surgery since we last saw him in that hurdle run at Kempton, when Nicky's horses were all needing the run. I actually spoke to him that day, and he said those 4 runners were his first winter crop, as it were, and they all needed the run. So that run will put him straight. Apparently, he's been jumping well at home, which is the problem that he had in his 3 novice runs last year. I just thought 10-1 was a good price on a horse that is classy at its best, and I think we've got more to come with the wind surgery and Henderson's horses now in form, more so than they were when he ran earlier on. I just thought it was a very big price at 10-1.
And then what a boost that would be for Nicky Henderson going into what's a really huge afternoon, hopefully, all being well with Constitution Hill. But before we get there, we have to go to the Ladbrokes Quarto Star Novices Chase. The first Grade 1 we'll be looking at Kempton, where we have that brilliant Newbury winner, the Jukebox Man, 11-10 favourite. Highland for Nicky Henderson at 11-4. Masaccio, 9-2 for Alan King. White Rhino at 6. And Welcome to the Cart Trees at 12-1. Tom, Jukebox Man's so impressive at Newbury. Do you want to take him on, or will it be a first Grade 1 for him 9 months on after that agonising defeat at the Cheltenham Festival?
Yeah, I'm in no rush to take him on, I don't think. It's probably a race I'll leave alone in terms of betting. I think he is the most likely winner. I'm looking forward to see him kind of go quite hard from the front. It's great watching front runners around Kempton. I always think that they're a sight to behold when they start jumping. So I do think he'll take some beating here. If there was an each way angle, obviously the 5 runners, the one I'd kind of think might outrun his odds is White Rhino. He's a horse that I'm going to be keeping on side this season, but he's not. I don't really want to take Jukebox Man on here. Highland was impressive at Cheltenham. I actually watched that race with you, Ed, and he was quite impressive. But I think the Jukebox Man, I was dead impressed with his debut. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do, not just here, but throughout the season. I think he might be one that could stick it to the Irish. So fingers crossed he will get the business done. I won't be backing him, but I hope he wins.
Yeah, big shout for Harry Redknapp's hope there for Tom. Could be a Cheltenham Festival player, of course, come the 2025 when it all comes around. Ed, you were mentioned there watching Highland alongside Tom. Are you going to see Highland hopefully win on Boxing Day?
Well, I think he's got everything that you need for this race. He stays, he's a relentless galloper, but he jumps exceptionally well. But I think he might just be a bit outclassed here. He was one of the summer horses that Nicky kept on the go, primarily because he wanted the better ground. But I think it's fair to say that he's every time they've asked him, he's answered their calls. He's progressed up the ranks, so deserves his crack at Grade 1. And he jumps brilliantly. We talk about the Jukebox Man being a good jumper. I mean, Highland, he hardly puts a foot wrong. He's only had a handful of races over fences. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing him jump those fences. As we said earlier on, it is a great sight to see good novices jump these horses at Kempton on Boxing Day. But I'm going to go for Jukebox Man. I mean, he's been placed in 3 Grade 1 hurdles last year in that performance last time out. Although he didn't win by perhaps as far as he looked like he was going to win at the end of the race, his jumping was really good, and he's got the class. I can't see the Jukebox Man losing this, to be fair. I want Highland to run well, but Jukebox Man for me.
Yeah, you're going to complete the hat-trick, Jonny?
Yeah, pretty much just copy everything the pair of them said. The Jukebox Man should probably win this. You go back to Cheltenham and the Albert Bartlett, that form's, for those that have been chasing this season, that form's working out really well. The likes of Dancing City, I think. Lucky Watson's come out and won, obviously, the other week in Ireland. And I think that's very strong form looking at the hurdling side of things. And then couldn't have been much more impressive when winning at Newbury. And I think he should be too good here.
The panel all in agreement, myself too, with the Jukebox Man. Let's see if we are all in agreement about the big matchup of Boxing Day. This is the Ladbrokes Christmas Hurdle at 1:55 at Kempton. Do not miss this. An absolute belter it could be. It is Lossiemouth versus Constitution Hill. Well, the Unibet currently price it up as 10-11 Lossiemouth, 6-5 Constitution Hill. Greatwood winner Burdett Road at 14s and Lump Sum second in the fighting fifth last time at 20-1. Straightforward, Ed. Is it going to be Lossiemouth? Is it going to be Constitution Hill?
Well, it's straightforward to say that, but I can't give an answer, I'm afraid. A definitive one, anyway. What a race this is. I mean, this is fantastic. This is the Christmas present for the adults, isn't it, on Boxing Day? Lossiemouth, who's 9 out of 10, winner of the Unibet hurdle. We've got Burdett Road, who was very impressive winner of the Unibet Greatwood. And then obviously Constitution Hill, unbeaten 8 out of 8, former winner of the Unibet Champion Hurdle. And Lump Sum, who's won the Welsh Champion Hurdle. So it's a fantastic race, just the 4 runners. But you could travel a long way to watch this race. The question mark for me is, I mean, we speak all the time about how far clear Constitution Hill is of Lossiemouth on ratings. But Lossiemouth has 2 major things in her favour. She's had the benefit of a run, and she's got the £7 allowance. And Constitution Hill's been off for a whole year, an exact year, since winning by 9.5 lengths this Grade 1 contest last year. It will be a hell of a performance for Constitution Hill to win. And at the betting, I prefer Lossiemouth at the betting, I must admit, because there's a lot to worry about Constitution Hill. We don't know if he's going to come back. We've seen some public work. We haven't seen a lot of the private work. Nicky says he's well. He said he's never seen the skin look so well on Constitution Hill. But I've been off the track for a long way. There's lots of issues that the horse has had. So at the betting, I mean, it's no surprise that Constitution Hill is not even favourite for this race. And Lossiemouth is a current favourite for the Unibet Champion Hurdle. So my heart says Constitution Hill, and I really hope my heart wins over my head. But my head just says Lossiemouth. So I'm going to tip up Lossiemouth, but I really hope I'm wrong.
Okay. Tom, where do you stand on this?
Yeah, I am of a similar stance as Ed, I think. This is really tricky from a betting perspective. You've got arguably one of the best hurdlers that we've ever seen up against that performance that Lossiemouth put up was right up there with any performance that I've seen in Ireland since Isterbrook, I think. I thought it was a right performance to beat Stayers Hurdle winner that comfortably and that impressively after making the mistakes that she did. She is a top class mare, right up there with the likes of Honeysuckle and Annie Power. I think she'll go on to eclipse them two as well. This is a right battle. This is the stance that I have. Constitution Hill, he is perfectly entitled, and I thought Buckley made a valid point that this horse has not been physically injured. But he had a bout of colic. It's perfectly understandable for this horse to run £10 below his best here. And added on the £7 that he's got to give Lossiemouth, that is £17 potentially. And I just can't see how Lossiemouth wouldn't win in that situation. So you're talking Constitutional's going to have to run right up to somewhere near his best here. And let's remember, his last 2 runs were not as good as the Constitution Hill that we saw in the Champion Hurdle. Like his RPRs of 167, RPR of 158 in this race last year. So if he's to even run to that level, which would be a perfectly respectable comeback run, he has got an awful lot to do to beat Lossiemouth. It seems mad because you are going to potentially get an opportunity to back Constitution Hill in a 4-runner race at odds against, and I get the prospect of that. I thought Lossiemouth would be shorter than this. And I think if you can get even money on the day with Lossiemouth, I will be more than happy to take it. And this was a race that I was never going to have a bet in ever, because it's just one to sit back and watch. And I wouldn't be surprised if Constitution Hill wins. But the more that I think about it, I would. I am starting to kind of warmly think that this is a massive task for Constitution Hill to beat Lossiemouth here. And if he does, wow, it's some training performance, some horse. It'll be one for the ages. It'll be talked about for a long time. But that's the kind of scale that we're talking about here. This would have to be right up there with his Champion Hurdle wins, in my opinion, to do that after such a layoff.
Yeah, agree with you. My own stance on it is a little bit similar to yours in that people reflect obviously back to Springer Sacre and his comeback, and for all he was brilliant and won the champion chase, and it was a fantastic performance. It wasn't the same level of performance as his prime, and I don't think Constitution Hill will come back to his absolute prime. Very happy to be wrong. Please go and prove me wrong. And as it stands, he's now got a serious contender giving that weight away in Lossiemouth. So he's going to need to be somewhere towards that better, because if he is dropping too low or doesn't reach a good enough point, then giving £7 away to her is near enough an impossible task. So hopefully he comes back and runs well. And as we say, I just hope it's a close race with a view to March as well, because that's going to be a fascinating prospect. Jonny, are we in Team Lossiemouth, Team Constitution Hill, or even elsewhere?
Well, I mean, Tom's obviously said about Lossiemouth in Ireland last time, saying how impressed he was. I mean, she quickened well, but they've got absolutely no pace, and she's been a stout hurdler in the sprint. I mean, what would you expect? I thought it was a very underwhelming performance for all it was visually impressive. I think Constitution Hill in a 4-runner race, odds against, if he's 90% to his best, he wins quite easily for me. I think he's that much better. Don't get me wrong, she's very good, but I think she's got a fair bit to improve still to be getting anywhere near what Constitution Hill has shown he's capable of in the past. And I can't leave Constitution Hill alone at those prices. I'm happy to be proven wrong, but I think he will be too good, provided he's even 90% to his best. He'll be too good for her.
Ooh, a difference of opinion. That's what we like to see. Well, huge clash. Let us know what you fancy, and I'm sure we'll watch this race with huge interest.
James?
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. Is there any chance they might look at each other and Burdett Road might get an easy lead and steal it off the final bend, given the way that the race is going to run? Because he'll be running from the front. Any chance?
I mean, listen, Ed, I don't know why you're asking me. I'm clearly not as much a clue as these two judges. But hey, look, I'd be surprised if they let him have too easy a lead. I think the horses are running for a bit of money more than anything else, and that we're up against. But stranger things have happened in these big races, and so often the big clashes do ends up with a little bit of disappointment. So it wouldn't be the first time we've seen it, would it, Ed?
No, I would be surprised though. But the track will suit. And straight after he won the Greatwood, he was talking about this race, obviously outclassed on ratings. I mean, Jonny won't have it, I wouldn't think, because the ratings just suggest he's got too much to improve. But just the way the race might be run, he might get a bit of a lead. Do you remember Rooster Booster? I think it was this race when Miles Clear and Harry Board got him on the line. Was that the race? Am I remembering the right race?
Yeah,
it does. Yeah, it does favour. Sometimes these front runners can get loose on the lead, but yeah,
if Constitution Hill was
really
to underperform as well, say he does absolutely need the run, and then he only has one to kind of beat from the front. Then it's a bold shout, but Burdett Road's a talented horse. Like, he's better than 142, that's for sure.
Yeah. Absolutely is, and fascinating to see how close he can sort of get to them, and just to give a little bit of a margin as to how good those two are related to those top handicappers, given he's a Greatwood winner and such. So many different ways to analyse this race. And you asked if there's a shock. Well, we've seen some shocks in Ladbrokes King George in the last few years. There's not been a winning favourite for some time. Let's see what the team fancy in this one. So at the top of the market as it stands, we've got Spillane's Tower at 3-1. Ile Francais 4-1 after that disappointment in France, but so good at the track last year. Grey Dawning, Britain's Best Hope at 9-2. Banbridge at 5-1. Corbett's Cross 10s. Embois Alain 11-1, and Le Homme Press 11-1 as well. So we've got leading chances for Britain, Ireland, and France. Tom, which way is the King George heading?
Yeah, I took a little bit of the double figures about Ile Francais, which I'm happy to. I just think he's the kind of horse that he's either going to win or he's going to bomb out. So I'm glad that he's running. I don't like the fact that he's bled before and he is very much hit and miss. The thing that's in his favour, and I thought Mr. George made a very good point the other day about the fact that the fences at Auteuil and the way that they race Auteuil, it's very different to British racing. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're jumping different fences, and it's almost like cross country style way of running. And he was so good at Kempton last time and that's the only time we've kind of seen him over these like orthodox fences over Britain. That he's entitled to kind of throw in the odd stinker, I think, over them fences, and you can trust him a little bit more. Whether I'd be jumping to go in again at 4-1, I just think this race is so competitive. We've just been discussing before we started shooting, just you can make a case for a lot of these. So I am going to go in again, but not on Ile Francais, because I'm going to take a little bit of a chance that that La Homme Press is going to get it right, going right-handed. I'm not convinced that he's got that much of a problem. He nearly won the King George a few years ago against it, banging form Braveman's game that time. And he's got such an engine, this horse, that if he is to jump fine, Kempton will be absolutely perfect for him. 3 miles around Kempton is going to suit him to a T. He ran an absolute stormer in the Gold Cup, which I think he got struck into at the second last, which may well have explained why he kind of really tired. He looked really tired at the end, but he did stop rather quickly. He was bang there. He looked like he was potentially going to beat Gallop and Deschamps at one point. It would be a big task coming here, going right-handed, but the Venetia Williams team and Charlie Deutsch couldn't be in better form. He's gone well fresh before, and I just think he's the one in the market that's been a little bit overlooked. And 12-1, I think, is a decent each-way price here, particularly when there are a few question marks over some of the ones at the top of the market. Albeit this is a really competitive race. There might not be a Gallop and Deschamps in there, but these are all like real high-class second season, like novices from last year that have got points to prove. And it wouldn't surprise me if 2 or 3 of them do become top class. So I'm involved already, but I'm not going to get involved on Ile Francais again. But I will take a double figure price about one, and the one that I've fallen down on is La Homme Press, because I do think he's very, very classy.
I think what you rightly say is it's a top class race, and you can look at many different horses in it. But the key thing about them is there's one doubt almost with any, whether it's ability, whether it's the form, whether it's the lack of, whether they're still as good as they once were. It's fascinating in that, and there will be a winner, and one of those horses will eventually prove one of those answers. It's just a case of who, and you rightly say on Ile Francais, just a fascinating contender in the race, given what we saw last season. Jonny, where are you looking?
I mean, as Tom mentioned, Ile Francais bled last time, bled a couple of times, and that's something that puts me off massively. I mean, we saw it with economics in the summer for William Haggis, and obviously he won a couple of times, but I couldn't be backing a horse that's been bleeding. It suggested it might happen again. They're going to not run their race at that point. For all he was very impressive last year, obviously around Kempton, there's not a chance I could be entertaining him at such a short price. Banbridge, obviously running well last time till unseating at the last went in with an Ergomone. Obviously that was over 2 miles and this over 3 miles, a very different test for all. He probably will get the 3 round Kempton. I'd be happy just to watch and see how he runs. I think Grey Dawning's run pretty well last time. I'm not, I don't think he's as progressive as Spillane's Tower is obviously favourite, but I think that run last time at Punchestown, John Durkin behind Factor File, in there with Gallop in Deschamps, albeit below best Gallop in Deschamps, is one of the best pieces of form or recent form on offer here, and I think he's the most progressive of the lot, and I'd expect him to win this pretty comfortably, to be honest. I don't think it's going to be as close as everyone's making out. They've supplemented him for the race, and I really can't see past him here. Even though they say the ground might be a bit quick, I think it'll be absolutely fine for him, and I see him winning quite comfortably.
Confident choice there. 3-1 favourite, Spillane's Tower. Like to hear it, Jonny. Ed, are you as confident on one?
No, although I am going to go big with a big price, because I think they're too big a price. So I mean, I think it's a very open race, but I am looking at a horse who's double figures and more for this contest. First of all, this is industry best price with Unibet, so there's no place to go apart from Unibet from 9 a.m. on Boxing Day. If you want to take advantage of this offer, you will have to go on Boxing Day to get it. But on the day of the event, from 9 a.m, will be industry best price on every single one of the runners in the King George. I just think a lot of horses they're talented, probably more talented than the horse that I'm going to choose, but they're all roughly there or thereabouts with the same rating. And I just, as you were talking, just going through every horse in the top end of the market, there's a worry about all of us. Blaine's Tower, the ground, but I also think it's a big old horse, might not enjoy Kempton. Ede Francais, we all know the problems with that horse, bled and hasn't set the world alight. Banbridge 2 miles up to 3 miles. Edgerton Blur did it, but Banbridge is also coming back from wilderness years. Grey Dawning would have been my selection, but perhaps I shouldn't listen too much to what trainers say. But Dan Skelton, in your excellent Racing Post analysis, says Christmas will be too soon. There's no way you'll see him at Christmas, and he had such a hard race in that Betfair Chase that, to my eyes, I mean, I don't know the horse. Dan's living with him every day, but the way it looked, it looked attritional. I think the race itself is perfect for Grey Dawning. I love the way he jumps, but because of those comments, because of what my eyes saw, I'm not going to back him. And then you've got the other horses like Long Press going that way round. Brave Man's Game definitely passed best. So I'm going to go for a horse that came to this meeting last year, to this race last year, and ran a really good race to finish. I think it was fourth, was it? Or fifth? The Real Whacker ran about 20, 25 to 1. Last year got beaten by 2 horses rated in the 170s and Hewick. And I'm expecting Gavin Sheehan to kind of win again. He won on Hewick at 12 to 1. Can he do it again and win off a 20 to 1 shot? I just thought it was too big a price. The grounds is one of the reasons why I'm going for the Real Whacker. Will be good, most good to soft, which he likes. The trainer, Patrick Neville, is in really good form at the moment. And this horse is still only 8 and shown a lot, both at the big meetings at Cheltenham and in other races, including this one, that he's not a back number. I don't think he's a 20, 25 to 1 shot. And with doubts about many of the other horses, I just thought the price I was expecting it to be about 12, 14. So 25 to 1 is a big price. So I'm going to go for the Real Whacker to whack it to them.
Real Whacker, and as Ed said at the top, their industry best price for Unibet. That was Kempton on Boxing Day looked at. We'll be going around the grounds for all the other big Grade 1 actions and the Rowland Meyrick at Wetherby after a quick look at the Racing Post Insider. So we go on to Aintree, where the ground is good to soft in places, and we've got Grade 1 action there on ITV. This is the William Hale Formby Novices Hurdle. Formerly the Tolworth, moved, of course, for the first time last season. And we have a potential Cheltenham Festival clue here because Potter's Charm, the brilliant winner at Cheltenham at the start so far this season, is our 7-4 favourite. We've got Road Less Travels 100 to 30, Country Mile 11 to 2, Celtic Dino 6 to 1, Miami Magic at 13 to 2. So Potter's Charm, he's looked so good so far this season. Jonny, have you been impressed by him, and is he your fancy to win the Formby?
I can't see any other outcome than Potter's Charm winning. I mean, he's down in trip, which would be the only slight concern. But he's won over 2 miles around Foster. I don't think it's really going to be, albeit in a bumper, I don't think that's going to be an issue. Dropping to 2 miles. Obviously, Road Less Travelled and Country Mile have formed with each other, and Country Mile was very impressive when winning it in December at Cheltenham. But I think they've still got a bit to find on what's been one of the most impressive novice hurdlers this season in Potter's Charm. I cannot see past us. I think I'm right in saying the Ollie Murphy horse they've been speaking quite highly of. But again, he's got a lot to find with Potter's Charm, who just looks superior to any other hurdler that's been anywhere in a race near him this season.
Yeah, I completely agree there. And the horse you mentioned there, Junker de Alia, Sean Byrne, not going to Kempton, is going to Aintree to ride this horse, 9 to 1. Price has shortened up just slightly since he's been declared, so perhaps a mention there. Tom, are you with Potter's Charm as well?
Yeah, absolutely. That performance at Cheltenham against Val Grand. I know Val Grand disappointed in handicap company last. The next time that wouldn't concern me too much. just thought that was as good a novice hurdle performance as we've seen in Britain or Ireland this season.
Wow.
I am surprised that they've gone back to 2 miles, but I just think he's just the best of this field, and he'll win over. He'd beat them over whatever trip, I think. Look, if you were to take him out the race, you've got a right good race in behind, but I just think you're getting a decent price about Potter's Charm because it is pretty competitive in and behind. I'd be very surprised if Potter's Charm was to be beaten here. I dare say that I think Val Grand might end up better than the rest of them. So, and he beat him by miles. I think he's all class, and I think he's probably Britain's at this stage. And we have got a few decent novice hurdlers, but this is probably the best one that we've seen this year. So yeah, I'm in the Potter's Charm camp. I just wonder if they've maybe gone here instead of potentially coming up against some of them really good ones at Newbury potentially on Saturday. So I think they obviously think this is probably more winnable. But I think he's very, very good, and I'd be very disappointed if he was to get beat here.
Yeah, I agree with you. I noticed that the Challow was mentioned for him after he won at Cheltenham for the first time, but he has shown a little bit more speed, and I wonder whether they're just thinking maybe a Challow testing ground, sort of a bit of a staying test. That might just be not his bag, and actually dropping him in what might be a weaker Grade 1 as well might just be the way to go of him. So 2 shouts for Potter's Charm. I'm in the Potter's Charm. Are we going to make it 4 out of 4, Ed Nicholson? You're on mute.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm going to go for Potter's Charm. I think he certainly looks as if he's an improving horse. Probably the best horse this side of the Irish Sea in novice hurdles this year. Although the horse that did finish second to him got beat in a handicap I saw last time out. So that was slightly worrying. But he's looked very good. He's looked like a relentless galloper. Dropped back to 2 miles, won. I was at this meeting last year. And it's attritional. I don't know, the sideways rain. I don't know if it's going to be sideways rain on Boxing Day. Maybe not, but it took a lot of getting this new race. As you said, it used to be the Tolworth down in Sandown. But Potter's Charm looks good. We're doing super boost on this race, so every horse in the race will be boosted to the next price up in the ladder. But I heard you mention Sean Bowen and Junker Dalliere. Of course, 12 months ago, this is the race that Sean Bowen broke his leg in. So they certainly were owing one, the racecourse. So Junker Dalliere might be, if you look, a coincidence backer. I wonder if they'll mention that on the TV. But he did break his leg in this race 12 months ago. So hopefully he'll come back a little bit better than he did a year ago. But I don't think he'll come back a winner. I think Sam Twiston-Davies will be coming back a winner on Potter's Charm.
Yeah, interesting note. I hadn't realised that, but you were right to remind me about Sean Byrne. He'll be hoping for a much better time. I don't think Junker Dalliere would have too bad an each way chance, so we'll wait and see. Let's move on to Wetherby. That's also featuring on Boxing Day coverage on ITV. This is the William Hill Rowland Meyrick Handicap Chase, where we have a Cheltenham winner and an Aintree winner taking on each other. The Aintree winner is Cruise Control, the 9-4 favourite. Tamariss for Paul Nicholls and Nick Schofield at 4-1. Some Scope 5-1. Cien Nomain, winner, of course, of the Fox Hunters, or the Hunter Chase, should I say now, at the Cheltenham Festival, 6-1. And Young Buster for Fergal O'Brien and Jonny Burke, who took out the Long Walk on Saturday at 15-2, along with Good Boy Bobby, the old veteran. A competitive handicap chase, it seems. Jonny, where are we looking?
It is competitive. It's not a race that excites me. There's a lot of other ones on the day, and there's a lot of other races on Boxing Day. I think I'm going to have to go with Tamariss for Paul Nicholls. You go back to February and his form round Exeter behind Crebley, obviously ran very well at the Cheltenham Festival. You got Kempton where he's second to Blow Your Wad. I think sort of they're up there with the best pieces of form on offer at the handicap marks in this race. And I'd be disappointed if he can't take a big step forward on what we saw at Haydock last time, when, obviously a long way behind Trelawney, but he was never going to be obviously he wasn't quite right that day, I would assume. But I think his form from February looks pretty decent. If he's anywhere near that, he's going to have a really good chance of winning here.
Yeah, some high-class novice form put to the test. Ed?
Yeah, first of all, another super boost race. So every horse in the race will be priced to the next price up the lather. Really competitive race. I remember always looking forward to this race on Boxing Days. I used to spend it at market races and races, and used to love watching this race at Wetherby. It's not as good a race as it used to be. I'm not sure it even was a handicap back in the day, but it's still great. It's still got some good horses. And there's been a horse well backed here in the early skirmishes, Cruise Control, who was a winning nap. I remember being a winning nap because there's so few of them, but he was a winning nap for me back at Aintree last year. And I was taken by his jumping. I loved his jumping. He jumped so well. He's still relatively well handicapped. 140 was the rating he was when he finished fourth at Punchestown in May in quite a big listed handicap chase. Following that win at Aintree, subsequently has had a nice hurdle prep around Aintree. And I just thought there was more to come off this rated 140. He is favourite. He's 9-4 with us, which is sure he was as big as 4 earlier on, but it's been definitely backed in the early skirmishes. And I just thought everything suggested that Cruise Control had a real good chance in this Rowland Meyrick on Boxing Day.
Sure, and finally we come to Tom.
Yeah, I agree with Ed. It looks like they kind of had this race in mind for Cruise Control for a while. Obviously had the prep run over hurdles, but they've given him a little bit of a break since then, and that's a clue in itself because he goes really well fresh. He's got form figures of 2-1-1-2 after days of 60 or more off the track, and 7, which is the one over hurdles the other month. I think he's got a good chance here. Like he's got some really classy form behind his name, so he's good anyway. But I'm not convinced with Tamuris. Like he's just never a horse that I've warmed to. I can see the angle here. I always think he's overbet Tamuris, but he probably isn't here. And if he does come on for the run, a lot of Paul Nicholls needed the run at that time, and I could see him running well, but I probably want a bit softer ground. Some Scope was the last one off the list. I could see him running well. Callum Pritchard, very good £7 claimer, and potentially looks second time after a wind up. Ran much better as well in the rehearsal chase in Newcastle last time. So I could definitely see him running well, but everything just kind of pointed back to Cruise Control. Just think he's better than these, and I think he's quite progressive still. And yeah, I'd be surprised. I think this looks a really good opportunity, and it looks like they've had this race in mind for him for a while. So yeah, Cruise Control for me.
Sure, right. We move on to Friday's racing, and the quality doesn't slow at any point at all. It is just simply brilliant on Friday. We are going to go back to Kempton for what is another all-star clash, potentially. We'll wait and see whether we get the declarations. We are also looking at anti-post prices, so they may change before the day of a race, but we have got a potentially huge clash here. Sir Gino versus Ballyburn in the Ladbrokes Wayward Novices Chase at 1:55 at Kempton on Friday. As it stands, it is Sir Gino 11-10 favourite, Ballyburn 6-5, Caliph de Burley 3-1, Rabot 6-1, Home 3-14s, and Brookie and Hypnosis 33s and 66-1 respectively. So Gino gets a good bit of allowance from Ballyburn, who was of course a brilliant winner at Cheltenham. What an absolute cracker we've got served up. Tom, where do we go from here? I mean, Sir Gino's so good in the fighting fifth. This is a completely different test for him over fences, and Ballyburn's a stiff opposition. I don't think Nicky Henson was expecting this sort of challenge for his chasing debut, was he?
No, absolutely. This is a potential belter, isn't it? Two horses that are probably the sexiest horses, maybe bar Constitution Hill. Like in terms of they get your blood pumping, don't they? Ballyburn and Sir Gino, they've got some sex appeal about the way that they go about their business, and this is a real potential ding dong. This, where do I stand? I wasn't as taken with Ballyburn's chasing performance as others. I just felt he looked a little bit slow. And if there is one track that you would want to take him on, it would be 2 miles around Kempton. And to add to that, you've got a real potential superstar in Sir Gino to do it. I'm happy to take Ballyburn on with Sir Gino here. Thought Sir Gino showed he was really, really good in the Fighting Fifth, albeit the race kind of fell apart. But he is all class. Like his run at Aintree last year, for him to win that after like a few problems at the yard and whatnot, I thought that was a really classy performance. He jumped really poorly that day and had the engine to beat a very good horse in Cargeese. The juveniles look really, really good from last year. If you look at like the form of some of the big handicaps, like the Triumph and the 4-year-olds, that looks a lot stronger certainly than the Supreme does, because that looks a really poor race. So the 4-year-olds look good, and Segino was a really exceptional 4-year-old. He's getting the weight. Look, I get Ballyburn he could be a potential superstar, like. But the horses that Ballyburn was beating, some of them have not quite franked the form this year. So I'm going to take him on. I think 2 miles around Kempton's, it's sharp enough for him. I thought he looked. I'd have had concerns backing him for the Arkle after his first run, particularly given his price. He's got a serious contender here who he's having to give weight. I'm going to take him on with Segino. But I wouldn't be surprised if Ballyburn goes and absolutely romps home with this, and he is just an absolute freak.
You make a very good point there, Tom. Not all Cheltenham Festival form is equal, and the Triumph form in particular is looking very, very strong. Jonny, I saw you nodding along to a few things. You weren't when he was talking about the Christmas hurdle, so it's nice to see you two with the same opinion. Are you also in the Segino camp?
I'm in the camp of, I don't think I'm going to be having a bet in the race. But
That's not an answer, Jonny. We're going to want your winner of a two.
The drop to 2 miles would be my concern with Ballyburn. Everything we've seen last season, they could have gone for the Supreme, but they thought no. Actually, well, partly Willie Mullins wanted to split his horses up. Obviously, the owner would have had to say in that as well, and they obviously feel he's better over a bit further. He made his chase debut over the 2.5 miles near enough. So it's a bit, are they going down in trip rather than up in trip because they want to go for Grade 1 at Cheltenham, for example, whereas obviously the 2.5 mile race is now a handicap. But Segino, I still think he's got a bit to prove. Not being over fences yet. For all Nicky Henderson says he's electric over them, I'll believe that when I see it. I think Ballyburn's the potential superstar, and I think the one who I'd rather be with him. I think it's the most likely winner, but I'm happy to just have a watch of the race myself and not have any punching involvement.
Okay, a lot more neutral there than perhaps Tom was, sitting on the fence a little bit more, but we like to see it. And as you say, Ed, Jonny mentioned there, we've heard so much about Nicky Henderson, about Segino's schooling and sort of electric, a classic handicapper, I have to say there. I'll believe it when I see it. That's a man who knows he does the handicapping if ever you've heard it. The vibes I've heard from Segino's schooling are very, very good. I mean, you were down there not too long ago. Is that the same what you were hearing?
Yeah, they think he's exceptional jumping fences, but he's got so much speed that they obviously thought that if they go down the 2 mile hurdle route, they could shake that up as well. Obviously, the whole point with Segino and where he goes depends upon Constitution Hill in the Henderson camp, but also State Man over in Ireland in the Willie Mullins camp, because they're owned by the same person. So it really is a conundrum, a jigsaw puzzle, if you like. And Segino, as I understand it, was going to run the Christmas hurdle if Constitution Hill wasn't ready. So there are still. I mean, maybe the best bet is to back Constitution Hill anti-post for the champion hurdle and Segino for the Arkle, because I doubt whether they'll both race. Well, they won't race in the same novice race, but they won't both race in the champion hurdle. But as for this race, we're normally guessing, aren't we? Everyone guesses, but we're guessing doubly here because we don't know whether both are going to turn up, and we both don't know what they're going to be like over fences. We have a little bit of idea about what Ballyburn is like, but as Tom said, there were lots of people, experts that I respect, who weren't massively impressed by his jumping. I heard one or two talk about how relatively slowly he was getting over his fences from A to B. But he's only young. He can only improve. I'm amazed that he's coming over. I mean, Willie doesn't like coming over. I know he's got Lossiemouth, but he hasn't got any horses in the King George. Maybe I'm going to be made to look really stupid when this comes out, because we'll know when this comes out. But I'll be amazed if he turns up. I mean, he's running over 2.5.
But it sounds like he is.
He's got an entry over
he has said he is, Ed, just at this point of recording. He said the plan is to, but this is Willie Mullins.
He's got an entry over 2. Yeah, he's got an entry over 2.5 at Limerick 2 days later, where he'll be similarly priced. And yeah, I'm not too sure whether 2 miles will be his optimum trip as a novice, as a lot of people have said. I think he's more likely to be a 2.5 miler. But what do I know? I'm only talking and just going through what I see. So my gut feel is that Sergino will probably end up the better 2 mile chaser, but who knows? On debut over fences, anything could happen. So yeah, as I say, we're normally guessing, but this is a double guess up. So I'll go for Sergino. Because I know how much the Henderson camp think he's electric over fences, but anything can happen on the racecourse, as we well know.
Absolutely.
Hats off to them changes that they've made this season, because making that race at Cheltenham a 2.5 mile race, and then because they've taken the Irish 2 mile Grade One away, they got a lot of criticism, but like the horses have got to go somewhere, and that we're potentially seeing a really good race here, which is what we want to see. Like, we want to see these races before Cheltenham, and this is the reason why it's happening. I have no doubt if that race at Cheltenham was still a Grade One, that Ballyburn will be run over 2.5 mile at Limerick, but they're going to have to run him over 2 miles at some point, and this is their opportunity. Is there a chance Sergino will be pulled out on the ground if they don't get much more rain?
Possibly, yeah. Good shout.
So we might even end up with Caliph de Burley going off favourite here. But I really hope this happens, because this is an equally as good a matchup as Lossiemouth and Constitution Hill.
Absolutely, and you took the words straight out of my mouth, because I was going to say exactly the same thing, that the changes they've made means you are going to get almost a squashing of this division, which is exactly what we want, because it looks an absolute belter. Willie Mullins' last comments in the Racing Post, just to clarify, said he is likely to run at Kempton. This is Willie Mullins, though. We'll wait and see what's declared. We'll wait and see what runs, and we'll go from there. Meanwhile, we'll move on to the Ladbrokes Desert Orchid Chase. The second race we'll be looking at Kempton on Friday, where we have Boot Hill as 2-1 favourite, Martador 5-2, Edwardstone 3-1, Sandsbrew 7-1, Soul Icon 10-1. Second year, I think this race is now run as a Grade 2 handicap, makes it a little bit more competitive. Jonny, let's go to you. What do you like here?
It's a bit of a minefield, this, isn't it? You've got Edwardstone and Boot Hill obviously coming in with form with John Bon, and that's arguably the strongest form in the race for all Martador keeps on winning. I think there's very little between Edwardstone and Boot Hill, and at the prices, I'd rather be with Edwardstone. But it's not something I'd be having a big wager on for by any means. But I think Edwardstone probably the most likely winner on some of his previous form, but we've not necessarily seen that for the best part of a year now. So it'd be a very tentative selection there.
Edwardstone for Jonny. Ed?
No real opinion here, but I think the improving Martador is worth keeping on to as long as he can keep winning. I don't think there's any reason to detract his winnings. So they've been going up the handicap from like 120s all the way up to 150s, hasn't he? I think so. He's improving. Venetia Williams' horses remain in great form. Charlie Deutsch is riding really well. I know you've got to have the horses to ride, but he doesn't get the plaudits. I don't think he does ride really well. And I'm going to be with Martador, but it's really not a strong selection at all.
Sure. I'm with Boot here. I think he's got a great chance. It was a cracking run behind John Bon last time. Tom?
Yeah, I'm kind of a similar position to the guys. It's not a race that screams to me to have a bet at all. Of all the races over the festive period, this is the one I want to have a bet in least. I would probably side with Martador just on the basis that the other two are pretty exposed. But yeah, I won't be having a bet in this. It'll be a one I'll probably watch on replay as well. But hey ho. The rest of the action's fantastic. So.
It's good, and there's a lot to get through. So fear not. You don't have to bet on every race. There's ones you'll like more than others. There is simply so much racing to get stuck into. And of course, at Chepstow as well, our final destination on the show, where the ground is soft. It might not be as attritional a Welsh Grand National Day as we're used to. We're going to do two races there, starting with the 140. This is the Coral Finale Juvenile Hurdle. It used to be a Grade 1, now it's a Grade 2. And just like the King George, we've got top runners from Britain, Ireland and France in this race. It's a really good renewal, actually. The favourite is Nietzsche's Has 5-4. It's Bilbo for Henry de Bromhead at 4-1. OPEC 5s, Hot Fuzz 6, Melon 8, not that one. One for Oliver Greenall and Josh Guerrero, and Static at 8-1. A cracking race, Ed. I know you'll be there for Welsh Grand National Day, but what do you like in the finale?
Well, I'm always disappointed it's no longer Grade 1 because it was always a race to look forward to and it lost its status, even though I think there were reasons why it could keep it. Some of the winners were Grade 1 horses. I mean, I remember Bristol de May making his UK debut here and winning really well. But as you say, it's normally attritional ground conditions, and I don't think it will be. We're normally very worried that the meeting is going to go ahead, but it looks almost certain, cross fingers, to go ahead on soft ground, albeit. Really, Nietzsche Haas is a very short price horse. The form coming into the race, the experience that the horse has got suggests that he'll be difficult to beat on all known kind of ratings. If you're a handicap man, and Jonny is, and we'll get the expert's opinion shortly, but he probably should win and deserves to be favourite. There's one horse here that I really liked on debut at Chepstow, who then disappointed next time out. My Noble Lord. John Joe Neal Jr. has already jocked up to ride. He won the Champions Hat Juvenile Hurdle at the Unibet Jump Season Opener, which is normally a good race. Horse, I think Solo's won that race, and other good horses have won that, having come from France. But this fella is a bit different in that he used to be a flat horse. He doesn't look like a flat horse. He looks like a chaser already. And I think maybe if you can forgive his last run, it's quite a big price at around about 25-1, coming from the connections he comes from. And JP was AP McCoy was at that meeting, and they did think he could progress into a nice juvenile. So I'll take a chance that last run was not the real My Noble Lord. It may well be. We've only got 2 runs to go on, but I thought he had scope. Certainly the way he looked. Were you there that day, James? He looked really big and looked like he had scope.
I wasn't there, but I did see the race. Can certainly see the case for him. Rank outsider of a field. Jonny, you were mentioned there by Ed. The favourite is the one to beat on ratings. Is he the one the handicapper likes, though?
He is the one that should take all the beating. I think OPEC's obviously got decent levels of form around Newbury. It was quite impressive, but still got a bit to find for me. It's Bilbo's declared for Leopardstown on the 26th, so he won't be running. He won't be coming over here. So that's another one that he won't have to beat. Yeah, the French form looks far too superior. And you go back to April, is ahead of a horse called Willie de Hooley, who's now with Willie Mullins and actually declared over the festive period as well, and probably be winning that for in the colours of Rich Ritchie or Mr. Susanna Ritchie even. The French horse looks far too good here. I think the one that was, I can't remember, I think it was 2 runs ago, the horse that won that race, Kivala de Burle, I think, I could be wrong. It's run against something that's now become a stallion, because obviously in France you get a lot of time these 3-year-olds, the way they do it, you've got, they won't be gelded as a 3-year-old hurdler, because they do actually try and breed jumps horses from jumpers, which is a little bit different to how we do things over here, which is always interesting to see. But yeah, he should be too good here.
Yeah, sure. And finally, Tom.
Yeah, I will bow to Jonathan's wisdom. I have no clue about the French form, and I have, to be honest, very little opinion on the British form here either. If you were getting an each way angle, I would probably Static, as he looks a decent juvenile who always seems to run his race, but he'll be beaten by a good one. This was the second race of the whole weekend that gave me little interest in having a bet. I just don't. I personally have no much clue about that French form, so I'm bowing to Jonny's wisdom, but I certainly won't be having a bet.
It's actually Nietzsche Has that's down as a stallion, so I imagine that might be coming before too long. He still is a colt, which is interesting.
Yeah, I think that might be a bit. I think that might be a bit of a mistake our side, because I
might be a bit premature that he's down as a stallion, but I think that is the plan though for him by the looks of it.
Yeah. Let's gallop ahead to the 250 at Chepstow. The last ITV race we'll be looking at. We'll of course be hearing from the best bets from the guys, and of course selections from across the all action-packed Christmas period. But this is the 250 at Chepstow, the Coral Welsh Grand National, one of jump racing's most grueling tests, and there's a good chance of a Welsh winner of a Welsh Grand National in Jubilee Express. But your favourite is the 9-2 Monbeg Genius. Gala de Leto 5-1, travelled really well in the Grand National at Aintree in April, where it all began for Gordon Elliott 6. Jubilee Express, who I mentioned, for Sam Thomas 8-1. Ironbridge, last year's runner-up, 10-1. I Will Do It, also for Wales at 10-1. And Fontaine Collonge, also a 10-1 shot. Tom, you got more interest in the Welsh Grand National, surely? It's always a pretty exciting round.
Absolutely, yeah. This is a great race. I'm keen to take Monbeg Genius on at the top of the market, though. I appreciate that he's promised an awful lot, particularly after that run in the Ultima a couple of seasons ago, and lost his way and looked really like he'd found a good bit back on his last start. And I can see him, like, if he comes on for that, but I'm just not sure the Welsh Grand National is really cut for him. I kind of think of him more as a better ground horse, like a 3 miler as opposed to kind of a marathon chaser. And I think on what will still be soft ground, and this 3 mile 6, even on that, is going to take an awful lot of getting. I think he might struggle to get home, and I'm keen to take him on here. And the one I'll be taking him on with is Gallia de la Torre. As you pointed out, ran a really good race in the Grand National, went well for a long way. She just loves these conditions are going to be perfect for her. She's described as like a mudlark, but I kind of think when it's really heavy, she's not quite as good. But soft ground should be perfect. This trip should be fine for her. I think everything's kind of aligned for her running a really big race here, and she's really well handicapped. She ran a brilliant race in the Classic Chase last season off this mark of 142, and she's right back down to that. And I think she's got a bit in hand off that mark. She's really, really classy, and I'm sure when she finished in the Grand National last year that they will have been thinking about this race. She's probably not quite classy enough to cut it in the Grand National, but she's got tons of class, and I think 142 underestimates her ability. I'm quite keen on Gallia de la Torre. I think she's got a really, really big each-way chance. I'd be very surprised and disappointed to see her not place here. So, quite a keen thumbs up for Gallia de la Torre.
A keen thumbs up. Jonny?
Yeah, it's like Tom Park can read what's going on in my head, and I have to agree with him.
That's very, very worrying. That is worrying if that is the case.
I liked her at Newbury for the whatever it was, Coral Gold Cup, I think it's called now. But she ran perfectly okay that day. The ground wouldn't have been perfect for her. She's likely to come on for that. Softer ground here will help. Step up and trip again will help. I imagine it's been the plan for a bit of time, having not quite seen out of the national, and that's obviously a more competitive race. And I expect her to run a really big race with a mark of 142.
Okay. Ed, are you also in the camp? Have you been reading their notes as well?
No, I haven't. I'm going to go for my old favourite here, Ironbridge, who came second in the race 12 months ago off a rating of 142. Mind you, I mean, it was almost like he could have been in a different race because he came second, but he lost by 34 lengths behind Nicholson, who was, quite frankly, the second easiest winner of the Welsh National behind Carville's Hill that I can remember. But Ironbridge has always looked like a Welsh National type. Proved that in that performance. Has been dropped by the handicapper down to 136. And that's because, let's face it, he hasn't run that well since. He should have run better in the Midlands Grand National at Uttoxeter when everything was in his favour. Over 4 miles in distance, tick. Heavy ground, tick. Jumping, he's not a great jumper, but he gets from A to B okay. That was a tick as well. But he finished a little bit stressed. He had a heat. The vet said there was like a heat stress or something. So you might be able to forgive that run, which I'm going to. And he's been running on probably ground and distances a little bit not to his ideal situation over the last few runs. But he has come down the handicap to 136. So on a track we know that he likes, on going that we know he likes, he's a stayer. I think it's well worth giving another chance, and it may be that he finds one that's maybe progressing or maybe stays a little bit better. But I just thought Iron Bridge. I think are we 10-1 at the moment, James? That's quite 10-1
yeah.
is quite short. I mean, I've seen bigger, but 10-1 is. Our traders obviously thinking the same as me that Iron Bridge has got a bit of a squeak this year around. But it is a cracking race, and we should say, James, that this year it's run in memory of Kim Gingle, sorry, who they'll be very pleased about that around that part of the world. So who knows who's going to win this race? But it'll be great to see everyone there at Chepstow. It is their big race of the year, and it's always great fun, especially when it doesn't rain. So let's hope it's not raining too much that day.
Yeah, right to say regarding Kim Gingle, it's been running her memory for a few years. It's fantastic for the Tizard family that it's continued. And Iron Bridge, of course, good second in the race last year, should love conditions. A little bit worried, might have lost his wages slightly, but we'll see. Jubilee Express for me, horse who had a bit of a setback, my only worry, but conditions are perfect for this horse. He's improving, and Sam Thomas has won racing this past off with a horse off a break. So lots of things to like about him. We'll be looking at a quick look at Islands, the Challow, all those other big races across the period after a short word from our sponsors.
Want betting on the horses to be anything but flat? With an app that impresses every time out. You're on. Want to watch live streaming of races in the UK, Ireland and around the globe? And get a chance to win even bigger with 3 Uniboosts every day on any horses you want. Unibet. You're on.
So then, just before we come on to our best bets, we'll be looking at some of the racing elsewhere that we've not covered so far. Plenty already on the show. And Jonny, we've not even discussed Ireland yet. We've got so much good racing in Britain. You've got a flavour of what's to come for Ireland, and hopefully a few winners as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good racing. I think a lot of these Willie Mullins ones, he's got to split them up somewhere. So that's why a couple come over to the UK naturally. But there's, just going through a couple of the races out there. You've got Down Royal on the 26th, the 12:48. There's not a race that's going to. It's 80 to 102 handicap hurdles. It's not high class stuff. This. But there's a horse in there called St Dennis as well, going back over hurdles. Don't get me wrong, he doesn't look as good over hurdles as Fences, but his hurdle mark's 2 stone below that of his chase mark. They switched from pieces to the blinkers for the first time here, and the trip down and trip's a bit questionable, but he ran it okay over 2 miles over hurdles at Navan in November, and if he can get anywhere near his chase form, he should be winning off a mark of 94. And yeah, there's just lots of good races to look forward to. You've got Redemption Day and William Money both making their hurdle debuts in the 12:35. At Limerick, there's a horse in the 12:58 called Canesborg for Gordon Elliott in the colours of JP McManus. He looked pretty decent when winning a bumper over in France, and subsequently winning another Group 3 bumper essentially. And there's a decent one of Mouse Morris's in there who sets the form, but from what I've heard, Canesborg could be very good and one to keep an eye on. And you go to Friday, you've got Gaelic Warrior, Founder 50, Marine National, Dino Blue, all racing against each other. And if Gaelic Warrior can reproduce what he did in the Arkle last year, was it the Arkle? Yeah, in the Arkle last year, that's something to get very excited about.
Yeah, that's huge. I mentioned the Challow. I mean, Regent Stroll, obviously the star attraction there. I think he'll probably prove too good. Tom?
Yeah, looking forward to the show. Is the new line going to run there as well? Or are they
Looks that way.
Yeah, I mean, that's another potential real ding-dong battle, isn't it? How do you split them? Yeah, very much looking forward to that. One on Boxing Day that caught my eye was Herbier, who is returned from a 576-day layoff when pulled up over hurdle last time. Keep an eye on the market with him. He's in a race where there's a few who are definitely on the decline, Petit Tonnerre being one of them, and no doubt when I've abandoned him, he will no doubt win. But I thought Herbier was interesting here because he was a horse who I thought would be really progressive a couple of seasons ago over Fences. Finished up on 138, but I would have backed him in a handicap off that kind of mark. Obviously had his issues, but he's back on track. They've entered him in a decent race, 12:30 at Aintree it is. So I'm not convinced with the others, and I think that he's dropped to a mark of 132 now. If he's back to the same sort of ability that he showed a couple of seasons, he'd be really well handicapped. So yeah, he's one that I'm looking to potentially back. But there's just so much good racing, like in Ireland. A lot of brilliant matchups. The Shallow looks a belter, so I'm just really looking forward to watching all of this racing unfold. To be honest, because there's some really good racing.
Absolutely, galloping the Sean Factor file, of course, the big highlight night. I'll give you one elsewhere on Boxing Day. It's Ballydisco in the 147 at Market Raise, and you may have seen the Racing Post doing their Syndicate series. I've done one which will go out soon regarding Value Racing Club. They've won the Lincoln National on a few occasions, and this horse has been very much aimed for this race. A good second last time. Lucinda Russell has told the team that everything's spot on, so I think the Syndicate are expecting a big run at Market Raising. That's Ballydisco in the 147 at Market Raising. But we move on to our best bets, and we're going to just be focusing on Boxing Day. So, Jonny Pearson, a winning nat with Jungle Boogie. What have you got for us on Boxing Day?
It'll be the 12:45 at Kempton novice handicap chase, and it'll be Fire Flyer for Paul Nicholson and Harry Cobden.
Fire Flyer to give us a flying start on Boxing Day. Tom?
Yeah, I'm going to go Potter's Charm in the 105 at Aintree. I just think he'll be far too good for these.
You stole it out of my West Country grip, Tom. So that leaves me to do the Jukebox Man in the 120 at Kempton. And finally, Ed.
Well, I'm going to go big and probably go home, but I'm going to back the real whacker in the King George at 2:30. I think there's a few question marks about the horse at the top end of the market. I just thought he was overpriced on ground which should suit him and maybe not suit a few of the others. So big price nap. Hopefully it will come up.
A 20 to 1 nap, that would put Ed Nicholson in the festive spirit. Thank you very much to our panel, Tom Park, Jonny Pearson and Ed Nicholson. I've been James Stevens for their thoughts on an action-packed show. Do check out the Racing Post for much more coverage over the Christmas period with preview and tips and everything else you'll need for an absolute belter of a week of racing. We've enjoyed reading your comments as usual on the last show, so do keep them coming, especially for any fancies across that busy Boxing Day period. As always, though, if you could do rate, review and subscribe wherever you are listening to us. And that's our last show of the year. So thank you very much for your support, and please join us on Thursday the 2nd of January at our usual 7 p.m. slot for another weekend preview. But until next time, enjoy the racing, goodbye and gamble responsibly. And of course, a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.